we're going to present the caste system and discrimination in India. Well, we are Renata Garcia, Barbara Casa, and Andres Pérez.
First of all, we want to give an insight on how the caste system works and where does it come from. It has its origins more than 2,000 years ago in India. It's basically a religious-based system in which people were classified according to their occupations. At first it was only occupation-based, but later it became hereditary. That means that your kids were born in the same class, in the same social status that you were born, that you acquired. It's an unalterable social status. There's no way in which one can change his or her social class unless they have a really good behavior during their lives. So when they reincarnate, they can be born in an upper class. And even though the caste system is not politically well accepted, it is something really Indian and really it's part of their culture. And even when the Muslims were in power in India, Indians actually embraced the caste system to differentiate themselves from the Muslims. So it was a way of saying, no, we're not gonna be controlled by you. And the bad connotation of the caste system was developed during the British power because they used it as a social control. Well, this caste system makes India have different realities. There's the upper caste, the Brahmins, which are the richer ones, and which have all the privileges. But on the other side, there are the untouchables, the lower caste that are not even considered a caste. They are not even in the caste system. So this makes India be a really bipolar nation, for it has different realities that are very, very different from each other.
Well, in the book, Balram tries to explain to the premier the caste system, and he says, I should explain a thing or two about caste. Even Indians get confused about this word, especially educated Indians in the cities. The fact that the educated Indians are the ones that get confused is because they actually don't care a lot about the caste. The ones that care what caste you are the low classes, the classes in the darkness. Everyone in the darkness who hears that name knows all about me at once. His name is Hawaii, which means sweet maker. So his profession or his destiny is to be a sweet maker. But like they say, oh, their Hawaii is making sweets and tea is in their blood. It's their destiny to make sweet and tea because it's caste. So only the lower class in the darkness actually care a lot about the caste system.
Well, it's supposed that the caste system has changed a lot over the years, and yes, it may have, but it still exists, and it is really, it's a reality in India. And when India became independent in 1947, the new government set a system in which scheduled castes and tribes, which are the untouchables, were going to be protected, so they were not discriminated as in past years. But there's this dilemma that if you're putting a name to that class, the scheduled caste, even if they're no longer the untouchables, you're still categorizing them in one group. You're telling them you're this, and you're not gonna be discriminated but they are still inside one group. There is a national commission for these kettle classes, which makes sure that they are respected, but it doesn't really work that much. And in relationship to the story, here are the main cities that the book talks about. And the darker blue cities are where there are more untouchables. And Bangalore, where Balram is you can see it's a really, well, not the darkest area, but it is rather dark. And where he was born, also here in Lakshmangarh, it is also a really dark area. So it does make sense that he comes from a low class.
Well, in the book also Balram explains to the Prime Minister about how he became an entrepreneur and how he climbed the caste system. And well, he said, I protected his good name, referring to Mr. Ashok, when I was his servant. And now that I am, in a sense, his master, I won't stop protecting his good name. I owe him so much. This comes in relationship with the master versus servant, and how by defeating the caste system, by killing Mr. Ashok, he in some sense, he became his master. He climbed the social class and became a much important man. Also, when he gets the new job in New Delhi as a driver of Mr. Ashok and Pinky Madam, he said about how Kishan, his brother, he was overcome with joy. His eyes were full of tears. Someone in his family was going to make it out of the darkness and into New Delhi. It is really strange that a caste actually could come out of its own low class place, the darkness. His brother was really happy because he was going to get out of the darkness and become, in some sense, also a better man, because that's in what they believe.
Well, these are some pictures of also the different realities in India. Here we can see a rich couple getting married, and you can see that they look like more Western than the other pictures. Maybe not because of their physical aspects, but because of the way they act. So, Western influence is really important in the caste system because it makes not most Indians, but educated Indians forget what the reality of their country is. That there are still people who live in really, really bad conditions, and here is a rickshaw puller, and it's really ironic how he's carrying a really well-dressed and fancy woman. They're both Indians, but one's destiny was determined, and well, their destinies were determined when they were born. So how is it possible that you cannot grow and develop yourself only because you were born in a certain family? But that's what Balram trying to change.
Well, discrimination was also mentioned before in India. It is due to the caste system and also to the different religions that interact in India. More than 165 million people in India continue to be subjected to discrimination. We mentioned before that there is a commission in charge of assuring that there is no more discrimination, but even though there is a lot all over the country. And as I said, not only between the castes, but also between different religions such as Muslim and Christian. Exploitation and violence simply because of their caste in India's hidden apartheid untouchably relegates Dalits throughout the country to a lifetime of segregation and abuse. Caste-based division continue to dominate in housing, marriage, employment, and general social interaction. divisions that are reinforced through economic boycotts and physical violence. The discrimination in the country not only affects, for example, when you cannot enter some place or where you cannot work, it also affects the daily life of different people. For example, the untouchables have a different way of marrying and different people that marry them in the higher caste.
Yeah, I was actually reading that maybe before, not so much now, but when an untouchable drank water from a font, a Brahmin couldn't drink that same water because it was already polluted by the untouchables. And this happened with meals, where with the places they were in, they couldn't even be together. They were so different, like in their minds, that it would make them sick if they were near an untouchable.
And nowadays, for example, as Balram explained that in the ancient there were like suitcases. Nowadays, this is a reason for exploitation in like more like in the older systems. And as we mentioned before, the case is based on a religious system. At the beginning of the history of India, there were two dominant religions, Hinduism and Buddhism. This Buddhism is also mentioned when the inspector of the school visits the school and he names Balram the white tiger and he says who was Buddha, and he says a great man, and he says no, a great God, because that it shows that it's also an important religion in India. But then the reason of discrimination of Muslims comes when Muslims control India, and the control of Muslims over India wasn't really like, so when they leave, they were like hated all over India. Then the British control came, but the Christianism didn't, well, it was the Anglican church. It didn't really function. They were like a little part of society. And then when the British left, the Muslims were just were left to the west and subcontinent of India. They weren't allowed anywhere else. For example, there are some images here and stop discrimination against Muslims because they, as some case in the untouchable, they are allowed in some places. And as in the book, when Balram finds out that Rampersa is Muslim, he has to leave his job because it wasn't accepted for the Hinduism to be a Muslim. If their bosses find out who were Hindus, they would kick him out. And I also read that nowadays Christians are like really discriminated. They are also even killed in. There have been like situations of murder between Christians. Now this isn't mentioned in the book because this is more actual, but it not happens.
Well, for the class discussion we want to present you a case in which discrimination is really noticeable. An engineering student at the Indian Institute of Technology, and Aniket Abukor, killed himself due to social pressure, and he was an untouchable. And he managed to study university, but he said that he was always being taunted for being a student from a scheduled caste. In this same school, they made a survey in which 56% of various scheduled castes felt discriminated, but not only by their classmates, but by the actual institution. And of course, the institution denies this discrimination, but most students feel that way. And they even say that they score lower than the average student, but they say it is because teachers tend to give them lower grades only because they are from a lower social class, not because they don't perform well. And at least 20 students from these institutions have committed suicide in the past 7 years. So